Tonight, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be celebrating Tubshvat, the holiday for the trees, and we want to learn a little bit about this holiday. Most people, they don't understand the significance of the holiday. There's no anything special that we do throughout the holiday besides the Seder of Tubshvat. So most people just brush off the holiday like as if it's not something important. But nevertheless, since it is an important date and there is a holiday, then must be that there's also a mystical and spiritual connection, and more than only that, lessons that we can apply into our life and learn something profound from it. So the holiday is called Chag HaIlanot, the holiday for the trees. And the first time that we meet the idea, the concept of trees in the Torah, of course, is in the book of Bereshit, in Genesis, when Hashem creates the world, and then He creates Gan Eden. And it says that in Gan Eden was a lot of trees. And the first time that we read about the word tree, it says about the tree in Gan Eden, Kol etz nechmad lemar'eh, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created the scene or the scenery in Gan Eden, and there was many trees there, and the trees were pleasant to see and good to eat. Besides one tree, there was only one tree that we weren't allowed to eat from, and that of course was the tree of knowledge. And later on, we also were prohibited from eating from the tree of life. But nevertheless, when Hashem created Gan Eden, then the description is that all the trees were pleasant to see and good to eat. Now, good to eat I can understand, but what does it mean pleasant to see? There was some type of a pleasure to look at the trees. And this is something that is hard for us to relate. We can understand that we can pleasure beautiful art or magnificent views. Sometimes you go on a trip to some faraway land and you can stare at a mountain or a waterfall, or you look at animals. We can somehow relate with what it means to pleasure to see. This is a pleasure that it's way beyond what we can understand. They had some type of very deep physical and spiritual pleasure just to look at the trees. But nevertheless, so the definition of a tree was pleasure to see and also was good to eat. And when we're talking about Gan Eden, right away we relate to Gan Eden with Adam and Chava. It's two things, they don't go separately. But nevertheless, the memory that we have from Gan Eden is a bad memory, because Adam and Chava, they sinned, and right away they got an eviction notice. You got to go out. You can't stay here. You sin, you get a kick in your tuchus. And right away came one of the many of the curses, and the curse was Bezat apecha tuchal lachem. With the sweat of your face, you're going to have to eat bread. We know that they got 39 curses. Adam got 10 curses. Chava got 10 curses. The snake got 10 curses, and the land got 9 curses. Totaling of 39 curses. That this is the source of why we have 39 labors on Shabbat that we're not allowed to do. Even though there are 39 labors in building the tabernacle, and from that we learn the labors, but the source of the number 39 is because of the 39 curses we had in Gan Eden. And by us observing Shabbat and following all the 39 labors, we do a rectification to the 39 curses that we received in Gan Eden. So when we observe Shabbat, it's called a Tikkun Olam, a rectification for the entire universe, for the curses that Adam and Chava got in Gan Eden. Now, when we look at the curses, we're going to just now focus on the one that I mentioned, Bezat apecha tuchal lachem, in the sweat of your face, you're going to eat bread. This is saying, in other words, that we're going to have to work hard to make a living, to earn money. It's not easy. But nevertheless, the hard work here is not necessarily me going to a 9-to-5 job. This is not what it's referring to. It's referring to that I have to work very, very hard in this world, and we're going to talk about this hard work in a few minutes, But to compare it to how it was in Gan Eden was an easy life. All they had to do is stretch their hand and pull a fruit off the tree, and that's it. Easy life. They just had to be busy with whatever they want to do. And when it came to food, all they need to do is reaching a hand. They didn't have to do much more than that. In our life is not so easy. Making money is not easy. Building relationships is not easy. Just dealing with this world is not easy. This world, you know how many people call this world? This world is a jungle. And there's many bad animals. It's hard to deal with this world. And Gan Eden is kind of like a jungle, but a good jungle. Because the jungle, you're saying the word jungle, you imagine, tropical trees and all sorts of colorful animals and waterfalls. But really that's a Gan Eden. Gan Eden is this scene. Just the jungle is the Gan Eden completely turned upside down. Now, since we are on the holiday of fruit, and today, later on, after Arvit, you're going to have here a seder of Tubshvat, where you eat from the fruit. Tomorrow we're going to have it for the men. But nevertheless, the theme of this holiday is the fruit. And part of the seder of Tubshvat is that we go through the 7 species, that the majority of them are fruit. I mean, the first 2 are grain, but the rest of the species are fruit. And again, when we thinking of the concept of fruit and we're connecting it to the Garden of Eden, to Gan Eden, then the combination of both of them is called pleasure, ta'anug. And the word Eden is ta'anug. When you're looking at the word, Garden of Eden, it's not the right word. This is not the correct term. It's called Gan Eden. Gan is a garden, and Eden is pleasure. The word Eden means in Hebrew pleasure. And the word Eden also has another explanation to it. Eden comes from the word in Hebrew adinut, to be very soft and refined and gentle. And again, so the word in Hebrew Eden means pleasure. I'm sure you're familiar when you go to the supermarkets here in Israel and you want to buy something good to eat. It's called ma'adanim. And you have all these like chocolate yogurts or whatever it is, and these are called ma'adanim. Why? Because it gives you pleasure. So the word Eden on one side means the literal explanation is Eden, is pleasure. So Gan Eden is the garden of pleasure. That's what I'm saying. Garden of Eden, it's not a good translation. It's not even connected to the actual reality. But we want to look at the word from a different root. And the root of the word adinut is Eden, Aleph Dalet Nun. And adinut, again, it's refinement, soft, polite, and so forth. Something that is delicate, adinut is something that is very delicate. And again, when we're looking at the concept of Gan Eden, of the Garden of Eden, and I'm going to stop using the word Garden of Eden because it's not the correct term. We're going to just stay on the Gan Eden. When we're thinking of Gan Eden, then we think of something that happened in the past. Oh, yeah, that's something prehistoric. And really, when you're looking at Gan Eden, it's something that we were kicked out of and it doesn't exist anymore. Even though we do know of the Gan Eden that we're going to reach in the future, of the heaven that we're going to receive in the future. But the idea of Gan Eden, the past Gan Eden, it's the idea of a rectification and progress. This is the idea of Gan Eden, and this is what we're going to talk about. Now, when we're celebrating the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, the holiday of the trees, then the Torah gives us a rule. That's just something that is good to know. According to the Torah, you're not allowed to chop down trees of fruit. It's a prohibition from the Torah. You're allowed to chop trees that don't bear fruit for heating, and for now they use wood to make whatever. It can be a table, can be a closet, can be paper, and that's fine. But we're only allowed to chop trees that don't bear fruit. Trees that they bear fruit, we're not allowed to chop them down. This is a prohibition from the Torah. So this is something that it's important to know, because a lot of people don't know that. And the place where it's found is in the book of Dvarim, and specifically in chapter 20, verse 19, where it says, Ki Adam etz hasadeh. I'm sure you're familiar with the famous term that the man is the tree of the field is the man. This is where we find also the prohibition that we're not allowed to cut a tree that bears fruit, that provides food for us. But this is when we're looking at the halakha part of the holiday. But we want to see how the holiday emerges in something more mystical and something more that has to do with me. How can I change something in my life? Because how I always teach is that the Torah is not a history book, and the Torah is not a book of science of facts. The Torah is a guide how for me how to refine myself. So everything that happens in the Torah, if I read between the lines and I take something from it, then it will teach me how to work on myself. Now, in the Torah, we find two concepts that they also compared to trees. One of them is a tzaddik, is a righteous man, because the tzaddik is considered an individual that gives fruit, noten perot. And another concept that we can compare to a tree is the actual Torah, because the Torah is called the tree of life, Etz HaChaim. And the idea of Gan Eden, of the Garden of Eden, is that it's a garden full of trees. And again, I don't like using the word Garden of Eden, but again, a Gan means like a garden, and it's full of trees. So when the Torah is referring to trees, we have two sources that tell us that trees, it's referring to a tzaddik, to a righteous man, and to the Torah, which is called the tree of life, Etz HaChaim. And Tubshvat, the holiday of the trees, is the significance of it is how do I go back to Gan Eden? I mean, our agenda, our goal is to go back to Gan Eden, to a place of perfection, of goodness and kindness, no evil, no diseases, no death. That's how Gan Eden was. Adam and Chava were placed in Gan Eden in a perfect world where there's no problems. There wasn't hate in Gan Eden. There wasn't jealousy in Gan Eden. They definitely didn't have doctors in Gan Eden. There wasn't diseases in Gan Eden. They didn't need to do anything to reach to a rectification. It was a place of perfection. But they made a sin. They got kicked out. Now we want to see how we're going back to Gan Eden. Tubshvat is the key how to go back to Gan Eden, to a world of rectification, or a world of perfection. Or to see it in a different wise is how do I turn this world into a Gan Eden? Because right now this world is a jungle. So how do I turn this jungle into a Gan Eden? When there's no hate, when there's no diseases, when there's no wars and jealousy and arguments and so forth. So when we're looking at the idea, the concept of Gan Eden, there are two ways of looking at Gan Eden. One way is looking at the past of something that was 5,779 years ago, something that was lost, something that doesn't exist anymore. But on the other hand, there's another Gan Eden, is where all the souls go to after they leave this world to get their reward. This is where we want to go. We want to go to Gan Eden. And we live for the fact that, one day I will go to Gan Eden. Today is my grandmother's yahrzeit, and I was thinking of her, and you want to think, okay, I'm hoping my grandmother is somewhere in Gan Eden, picking some grape trees now, eating and enjoying the sweet fruit of Gan Eden, even though there's no fruits of Gan Eden, but the soul enjoys in Gan Eden the mitzvot that she did, and the Torah. And nevertheless, when in this situation, when a grandson lives in this world and the soul of the grandmother is in Gan Eden, then the soul of the grandmother benefits from the actions of the grandson. I was thinking today, okay, what should I do for the memory of my grandmother? So we'll dedicate a class. We'll later on buy the food for the Tubshvat Seder, whatever it is. And then I was thinking, just by me being Torah observant and doing mitzvot every day and learning Torah and following the Torah, that's a benefit for my grandmother, for my grandfather, for all my ancestors. By having the branch, I'm a branch coming out of them. So by the fact that I observe the Torah, that's already a pleasure for them and a reward for them. So we have two Gan Edens. The Gan Eden that Adam and Chava was placed in the beginning of the creation of the world, and that's something that belongs to the past. But there's also a Gan Eden in the future, a spiritual Gan Eden. The only difference between both of them, the Gan Eden where the souls end up in, that's the last stop. There's no other stop after that. That's the stop where the souls end up. That's where they receive the reward for all their hard work in this world. But the difference between the last stop Gan Eden and the beginning Gan Eden is that the last stop Gan Eden, that's the end. That's where you retire, so to say, spiritually retire. You just sit in Gan Eden, and wherever you're placed, that's where you are. You can grow in Gan Eden. You can do a mitzvah in Gan Eden. Even though we do know the souls in Gan Eden, they're looking down and they don't want to come down here because they're already sitting in their executive suite or in their summer house in the spiritual Gan Eden. But nevertheless, they are jealous of us because they realize that 1 minute in this world, they grow from this place in Gan Eden to this place in Gan Eden. You know what the souls will give to wear tzitzit on them for 2 minutes? They know they go to a much higher place. So here in this world, it's actually a much better place because every moment I can now grow higher and higher in the Gan Eden that I will receive. Why should I settle for this level if now every moment that I learn Torah, a higher Gan Eden. Every mitzvah that I do, a greater Gan Eden. But that's the last stop, so to say, because really it's not the last stop, because after Gan Eden comes Olam Haba. Gan Eden right now is the waiting room for the souls till Mashiach comes. Because after Mashiach comes, all the souls that are in Gan Eden will come back to the world in Tchiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead, and later on we all go to Olam Haba, to the next world. But nevertheless, for now, to put it in some type of a definition, the spiritual Gan Eden is the last stop. But if we're looking at the original Gan Eden, that's not a last stop, that's the bottom, that's the beginning. And the beginning represents what is called development and growing, and when I have a destiny and a mission and something that grows. I mean, the whole world is not about sitting in one place. When Adam and Chava were placed in Gan Eden, it says that Adam was placed in Gan Eden le'ovda or le'shomra. He had to work in it and he had to guard it. But you have the work, he had to work in there. Now what type of work Adam had to do in Gan Eden? You think he had a sales job? He was an executive, a vice president of a development company? What did he do? Le'ovda. He didn't have to work the land. Everything just grew by itself. The avodah is representing this growth, and not only growth, this is a progress of something. So the difference between the two Gan Edens is that the Gan Eden that belongs in this world is all about growth. And it's all about developing, and it's all about taking my mission in life and growing and taking it somewhere. And when you're looking in the Torah, the whole Torah is about a rectification and about progress. This is what the Torah is about. The Torah is not telling me live in the past. This is the problem with many people. They live in the past. They remember things from the past. And you know, usually you have good memories from the past. You can have 5 years of hard life, 20 years later you'll remember the good parts in it. And how many times there's a certain individual in your life that you fight with, you argue with, there's a lot of problems. 30 years later when you meet, hey, how are you? And you forgot that 30 years ago you were fighting all day long. But many people, unfortunately, they live in the past. They romancing the stone. Oh, remember then? It wasn't that great then. Why are you holding on the past so much? It's very hard to let go sometimes of the past. But the Torah is not about, living in the past. The Torah is about changing the future. And the easiest hint that Hashem gave us is that He placed the eyes in the front of the face. So we will know that we're always looking forward. If Hashem wanted us to look backwards, He would put the eyes in the back. Hashem is telling us, I don't want you to look back, I want you to look forward. I want you to take the experience of the past, but to learn from that, to change something for the future. to proceed, to progress, to grow. So the Torah is not about living in the past, even though to some people the Torah looks like a history book, but the Torah has nothing to do with the past. The Torah is tools how to proceed future. And the Torah is about rectification and growing. That's what the Torah is about. Every one of us needs to reach to a certain level of rectification and to fix what we messed up and to constantly grow and to grow. If you're not in a motion of growth, then what are you doing? Are you standing in one spot? Now, going again back to Gan Eden. In Gan Eden, physically in Gan Eden, what the Torah says, there were many, many trees there. There were many different types of trees, and every tree had a different fruit. And needless to say, the fruit were beyond amazing. It's not the fruit that we know. Sometimes you have a good, delicious fruit, and you're like, wow, so luscious and tasty. This is nothing compared to the fruit that Adam HaRishon had. You know, they tell it to the kids that when Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be candy off the tree. And the kids get excited. They don't understand that it's fruit. You know, when Mashiach is going to come very soon, we're going to go back to being vegetarians. We're not going to eat meat anymore. This is not how the world was intended to be. Till Noach, Adam HaRishon was not supposed to eat meat. And he didn't eat meat. Till Noach. Only after Noach we were allowed to eat meat. But even if you're looking at the physical structure of our body, the body is not built to eat meat. We're not carnivores. After Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to eat meat anymore. In the beginning we'll still have sacrifices, but slowly the animal sacrifices will stop, and the only sacrifices that will stay will be from oil and wheat and barley, like mincha. So, but where are we going to get our food from? From trees. When Mashiach is going to come, all the trees are going to have fruit. Now we have X amount of trees that they bear fruit, oranges, apples, and so forth. But how many trees you have out there that don't bear fruit? But when Mashiach is going to come, all the trees are going to have fruit. And the fruit are going to be like sweets. You're going to eat an apple, we're going to be, wow. And we're going to be nourished only by the fruit. We're not going to have to eat anything else. There's not going to be any more supermarkets. We're not going to have to suffer anymore from sugar and fake things that they put in the food coloring and GMO and MSG and all this junk. I mean, 90% of what we eat now is not really food. That's why half the world is sick and dying, because we're not eating food. Most people don't eat food, and even the vegetables are already contaminated with chemicals. So when we're looking at the original Gan Eden, it was just trees. And that's how Adam and Chava had their food. Now, in the middle of Gan Eden, there was one tree, the tree of life. And this is the tree that the Kadosh Baruch Hu was afraid that Adam and Chava will eat from. When they ate from the tree of knowledge, right away Hashem says, oh no, if you eat from the tree of life, we're going to have a problem. And right away, He kicked them out of Gan Eden. The tree of life, it represents eternal life. Originally, Adam and Chava were supposed to live forever. If they would not touch the tree of knowledge, Adam and Chava would live for eternity. That was the intention. And this is what we're looking for. We want eternal life. A perfect eternal life. So the tree of life that is placed in the middle of Gan Eden, and by the way, Gan Eden is in this world and it still exists, we just don't know where it is. Because when Adam and Chava were kicked out, then the Kadosh Baruch Hu placed a guard outside of Gan Eden with a certain sword, the blade of the revolving sword, and we just don't know where it is. It can be right in front of us and we just don't see it. But nevertheless, in the middle of Gan Eden was the tree of life. After Adam and Chava sinned, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says they cannot be here anymore. He kicked them out of Gan Eden. He placed the cherubs, the angels, the kruvim in the entrance of Gan Eden with a special sword. This is called La'at HaCherev HaMitapechet, the blade of the revolving sword. That's it. We can't go into Gan Eden. And from many sources that we have, Gan Eden is right in front of us. We just don't see it. We don't know exactly where. It can be right in front of us. Some people do think it's here in Tzfat. But nevertheless, we just don't know exactly where it is and we can't see it. But very soon, Mashiach is going to come. You know, the veil will be removed and we will see it. Now, right now, we don't have access to the tree of life. The only way we have access to the tree of life is through the Torah. But to actually see the tree of life and to touch it, definitely we can't eat from it. but we don't have access to the tree of life in this world. We only have one way how to have access to the tree of life in this world, is when you pull the branches into the world. If I go now into an orchard, I can grab a branch and bend it down. And how do I get the fruit off a tree? I have to bend the branch down and pull the tree off. So the only way for me now to have any type of access to the tree of life is to bend the branches into this world. Now, how do I bend the branches of the tree of life into this world? I have two ways of doing it. One of them is through the Torah, is when I learn the Torah, because the Torah is the tree of life. When I learn Torah, then I pull a branch of the tree of life into this world. Another way for me to bring the tree of life into this world is through the tzaddikim, through the righteous people. Because the righteous people is called Pri Tzaddik Etz Chaim. This is what Shlomo HaMelech says in the book of Proverbs, in Mishlei. In Mishlei chapter 11, verse 30, it says, Pri Tzaddik, the fruit of a tzaddik is Etz Chaim, is the tree of life. So the tzaddik himself, he teaches us, he brings us Torah, he guides us. He's the fruit of the tree of life. So if I want to benefit from the tree of life, then I have to take from the fruit of what the tzaddik gives me. And where do we think we learn all the Torah? We have the oral, the written Torah, then we have the oral Torah. But look how much Torah is around us, coming from the mystical part of the Torah, the Zohar and Kabbalah and Chassidut, and thousands and thousands and thousands of books written from tzaddikim. That's how we receive from the Torah. Every day we learn from Parashat HaShavua something about the Torah. And there's so many different books that we learn from. Here specifically we learn from the Ben Ish Chai, from the Noam Elimelech, from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak from Barditchov, from the Baal Shem Tov, from the Ramban, from the Orach Chaim. There's numerous around the books, and each one today we learned an hour, one little verse from the Torah. 1 hour. We spent here one class, 1 hour, teachings of the Ben Ish Chai on one little verse from the Torah. One little verse, you can have books over books over books. And we think that we understand the text of the Torah. But then we have thousands of books brought down by great sages and tzaddikim explaining it to us. What does it mean? How is that relating to me? How can it affect my life? So the way for me to taste from the tree of life is to be connected to the teachings of the tzaddik. So we have two channels how I can taste from the tree of life. Learn Torah. That's how I bend, so to say, one of the branches of the tree of life into the world. And learning and following the teachings of the tzaddikim. And like I told you, we know that the tzaddik is considered a fruit of the tree of life. Shlomo HaMelech says that in the book of Proverbs, like I told you, chapter 11, verse 30. And it says, Pri Tzaddik Etz Chaim, the fruit of the righteous man is the tree of life. That's what it says in the Mishlei. Now, we're now in the month of Shvat, and the holiday that we're learning about is called Tubshvat. Tu means Tetvav, the 15th day of Shvat. Now, the meaning of Shvat, if you read it with the pronunciation of Tzere or Segol, it will be Shevet. Shevet means a tribe. But reread the name of the month is Shvat, with a Shva, with the pronunciation of Shva. But Shvat is also a branch. I'm sure you heard the term from David HaMelech, Shivtecha u'mish'antecha hema yenachamoni. That's chapter 23 in Tehillim. What's a Shivtecha? What's a Shevet? It's a piece of wood. In the olden days, they used to hit the kids in school with a little stick. It's called a Shevet. What? A cane? No, cane is you support your body. It has to be a strong piece of wood. But in the olden days, this also happened 50 years ago. It's not like prehistoric. The teacher will have a little stick. It would be very flexible, and they would whip the child on their hand, on their tuchis. But nevertheless, this is called a shevet. This is the word shevet is a little stick. So when we're looking at the month of Shvat, it also is the exact same letters, just change the pronunciation. It's also called Shevet, and Shevet is a stick. So this is coming to teach me something, that I have to become a branch. If I want to be attached to the tree of life, especially in this world, I have to become a branch, the branch of the tree of life. Now, how do I become a branch? What does it mean for me to become a branch? So let's go back again to the definition of the word Eden. Eden, on one side, like I told you, is pleasure. But Eden is also the root of the word in Hebrew, adinut. Sensitivity, refinement, delicate, soft, so forth. There's many ways to translate the word adinut. Now, where do I have to be gentle and soft? Where do I have to be adin? In my midot, in my characteristics. And most people are very not gentle. How they speak, how they talk, how they behave, how they treat people. It's not sensitive, it's not soft, it's not gentle. So I have to work on myself to be gentle. Now, we always like looking at the model that we have in the teachings of Kabbalah to manifest it into my life one way or another. So in the teachings of Kabbalah have many different models. One of the models is the structure of the spiritual worlds. That we know of 5 spiritual worlds. 4 of them are more common. Of course, I'm talking about the worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. I mentioned the 5th world because this is a world called Adam Kadmon. This is the world above the world of Atzilut. But nevertheless, there's many other worlds. And we're going to concentrate now on the 4 worlds because everything corresponds to these 4 worlds. Be'ezrat Hashem, I know I promised already a few times, but we will do a short course about the 4 worlds because I'm sure you hear it in many different classes about the 4 worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, the world of emanation, the world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of action. So very few people can relate. What does it mean, these 4 worlds? Where are these 4 worlds? Is one of them Mars and the other one is Venus? The 4 worlds are all attached to each other. That's one world inside the other, like an onion that has layers. So one world is inside the other world, and we all live in all these worlds. So Be'ezrat Hashem, I know I promised a few times, but we will do a short course of the structure of the worlds and what does it mean, these 4 worlds. But nevertheless, this is one of the models in the teachings of Kabbalah, that we have 4 spiritual worlds. Now, the upper world of all the 4 is called the world of Atzilut, the world of emanation. In this world, there's nothing but the presence of Hashem. There's nothing there. It's something that is hard for us to relate. Well, the place of nothingness? Yeah, only Hashem exists there. Only the presence of Hashem is there. Now, when the presence of Hashem is there, this means the ultimate refinement, adinut, the ultimate gentle and refinement and clarity. There's only the presence of Hashem there. Now, underneath that comes another 3 worlds, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, creation, formation, and action. This is already when the worlds are getting some type of coarseness, some type of a physical existence, even though the spiritual worlds. But this is when it gets some type of reality. And not only a reality of good, also a reality of bad. In the world of Atzilut, there's nothing bad there. There's no klipot in the world of Atzilut. There's no reality of negativity. In the world of Bria, okay, that's already, you have angels there. On the other side of the angels, you already have klipa, a husk, a negative energy, and there's a reality of negative in that world. And then, of course, world of Yetzirah and Asiyah, then in this physical world, then the 90% is negative and bad. But nevertheless, there is already a reality of something negative in the world of Bria, and the more you go down in the worlds, down, don't imagine the worlds one on top of the other. That's a mistake. They're actually down in their level. A lot of people, when they imagine, when you're telling them spiritual worlds, that first comes Atzilut, then Bria, then Yetzirah, they imagine, oh, first floor, second floor, third floor. It doesn't work like that. It's one inside the other. It's more their level rather their physical place. But the more you go down in the levels of the world, the more the reality of the existence of evil is powerful there, and the more profound it gets. But the idea, if you want to summarize one of the points of why the world was created, is to turn this world into a Gan Eden. Is to take this physical, coarse, hard, harsh world and to switch it into something gentle, something refined, something clean. And this is called the Gan Eden, because Gan Eden is the ultimate refinement, something that is clear and beautiful. You can take a diamond out of the mine, it doesn't worth much, it's dirty, it's not cut nice. Take it to the diamond dealer, or to the whatever it's called, a cutter. He starts cutting it and polishing it, and if the cut is perfect, the diamond is worth tens of thousands of dollars. Now, how do I change this coarse, disgusting, hard, harsh, violent, etc., world into something refined? Then I need to use my soul, because my soul is very, very sensitive, very gentle. Or the word in Hebrew is adin. It says the nefesh adina, very, very refined and sensitive soul. Our soul is so sensitive that it's just packed into a coarse body. But our soul is extremely sensitive, especially the part that I work with in this world, which is called nefesh. The soul is built from 5 levels, which is really 125 levels. We went through that in a couple of our classes. How do we get to 5? Because the soul is built from nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. These are the 5 levels. But each one of these levels include in it 5 levels, and each one of those 5 levels including in it another 5 levels. Meaning that the lowest of all is called nefesh, the nefesh, and the highest is called yechida, the yechida. But it's 5 times 5 times 5, 125 levels of our soul, or components. But nevertheless, the lowest of all is called nefesh. The nefesh is the part that is very involved in and connected to the body, the spiritual being that is actually allowing the body to maneuver and to be a living creature. And this nefesh is very, very refined, very sensitive, and very gentle, and very, what's called in Hebrew, adin, very delicate. Now, the nefesh has 3 garments: thought, speech, and action. The nefesh is a very spiritual entity. It cannot do physical things. In order for the nefesh to interact with this world, it needs to be dressed in garments in order to relate with the world. The easiest way to relate with it, now in our generation, many things are done by robots. 90% of manufacture is done by robots. It's not done by humans. And this is something amazing, because everything that has to do with kedusha, with holiness, cannot be done with a robot. Writing a Sefer Torah, I saw a video of a certain robot that writes a Sefer Torah. This is a complete, not valid Sefer Torah. It has to be written by a hand. Tefillin has to be done with a hand. Mezuzah, Megillah, tzitzit, everything that is a religious article has to be done with a hand. If it's not done with a human, it's worthless. If you wear now tzitzit, that the knots are done by a machine, it's not a valid tzitzit. It has to be done with the power of a human being. But nevertheless, 90% of what is manufactured in the world right now is done by robots. And the robot has functioning. The robot knows how to do a certain function. A, B, C, whatever it is, whatever it's designed. Now sometimes you're looking at a big building, how they do the construction. You know, you ever saw how they take all the materials from one place to another? There's this huge crane. And the crane can carry hundreds of kilos of cement and metal beams. When you're looking at this massive crane, there's a little man sitting in a little box, and he's moving a few sticks, and he's moving this massive crane that is able to move huge pieces of cement and rocks. And this little man is sitting there like with joysticks and moving it. And he moves the stick this way, so the crane will move like that. He moves the stick this way, the crane moves like this. This is the nefesh. The nefesh, now, can the little man move these huge pallets of bricks and cement? No, he can't even move it. The crane has the power. The nefesh is this little entity sitting in the body, and it's moving different sticks. I call it sticks, because if you ever go into a cockpit of a crane, it sticks. And you move them forward and backwards and forth and to the sides, like we had in the olden days. Now it's more sophisticated. When I was a little kid and we had video games, we had a joystick. Remember those joysticks? It's like a box and you move the stick. That's why I call it sticks. Now today is with the fingers. Nevertheless, this is the idea of a nefesh. The nefesh is sitting in this massive crane. Now the nefesh wants to move the hand like this. My hand is a crane at the end of the day, and it's a robot. It goes in, out, in, out, in, out. It can't go the other way around. My hand can only bend here. It cannot bend the other way. I'm literally a robot. But inside sits a nefesh and it moves everything. How does it move it? It has three powers. The teachings of Kabbalah calls it garments, because the nefesh gets dressed in it. Nowadays, they do have this type of technology. You can Google it and see it online, that you see a person, they have all these wires on the person, and if the person goes like this, then a robot will go also like that. And you see that our movements can control something else. So the nefesh, that's what it does. The nefesh needs to control the body. How does it control the body? With these three garments of thought, speech, and action. We think, we speak, and we have movements and action. But the soul is the one who's controlling it in the cockpit or in the control room. So these three garments that we're referring to are corresponding to the three spiritual worlds beneath the world of Atzilut. The world of Atzilut, the world of emanation, is just Hashem, just the presence of Hashem. There's no existence of evil or bad there. But the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, there's already angels there, there's already klipot there, and each group of angels, they'll be in a different world. If you remember, every day when we pray, we say Srafim, Ofanim, Chayot HaKodesh, different levels of angels. Each group of angels belong to a different world. Now, the three garments that the nefesh uses, thought, speech, and actions, they correspond to the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Creation, formation, and action. Now, going back again to the definition of Gan Eden, Gan can be defined as a garden, but this is a hint that I have to switch everything into the form of Gan Eden. Everything has evil and negativity in this world, and I have to switch it. Now, if we're looking at the structure of the three worlds, then the first world is the world of Bria. The world of Bria corresponds to the garment that is called Machshava, thought. Everything starts with a thought. Before I even move my hand, before I do an action, has to be a thought. I will not involuntarily start moving a hand. If I want to now reach out to this and to pick it up, then my thought tells my hand, in a split second, reach out the hand and get it. But there can't be any movement without a thought. So thought is the highest of all of the garments, and it corresponds to the world of Bria, the world of creation. And how do I refine my thoughts? The whole point here is I now need to get to a place of adinut, of refinement. So I have to refine my thoughts, I have to refine my speech, and I have to refine my action. So how do I refine my thoughts? What can correspond in this world to thoughts? Then in this world, what corresponds to thoughts is music. Everybody has music in their life. It's almost impossible to have a life without music. And some people are musicians, so their music is a very dominating part of their life. But almost any human being, almost any, I never met any human being that doesn't, every human being, they love music. You like rock, you like jazz, you like classic music, but everybody likes music. And music is a huge part of our life. Now, whether you acknowledge it or not, whatever music you hear will affect you. You hear something soft, it will calm you down. You'll hear something exciting, it will excite you. We once made an experiment that I used to teach in a high school of girls that come from religious families, but they're very not into religion. And I wasn't a teacher on the staff there. I would come every 2 weeks to talk to them and to, give them inspiration and just to talk to them. The funny thing was that in the high school, when I would see them, they would all be dressed very modest, and hair would be all tight in a ponytail. Sometimes I would see them in the streets, and they would wave to me, and in the streets, makeup, short mini skirts, earrings. I wouldn't recognize them, and they would wave to me in the street, and I'm like, why is this girl waving to me? And it would be the girls from the school. So in the streets, they would be dressed like, not so modest, the least to say. But in the school, they all came from religious families. Anyways, one time I told them the same thing, that the music affects your behavior. and they were laughing at me. And I said, let's make an experiment. And we made an experiment, and I told them, don't listen to secular music for 30 days. Because today the secular music, the lyrics is, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to bury you, and all sorts of, listen to the lyrics of the music today. It's not like in the 50s, where the music was like, my beautiful love, I want to marry you, you are beautiful like a flower. That's in the 50s. Now the music is, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to rip you to pieces, I want to do this to you, I want to do that to you. So I told them, don't listen to secular music for 30 days. Listen to very holy, clean music. And let's see. So some of the girls did take the experiment, and they all reported that after a while, they were much more calm. They were much more relaxed. They were more refined. They didn't have negative thoughts, and so forth. And this was one experiment out of many. But since we're very limited in the time of the class, this is one way how the thoughts are going into our refinement process. Most people, their thoughts are extremely not refined. What they're thinking of all day long, Hashem Yerachem, what people are thinking of. So the first thing is that I have to refine my thoughts. So just to have some type of a tool today is the music that you play all day long. Most people, they have a little thing stuck in their ear, and all day long they hear music. In the car, in the bus, while they work, everywhere you go, you stand in the Kupat Cholim, there's music, background music, you go to a hotel, the bank, there's always music in the background. Do an experiment, you'll see that what type of music you hear, and you'll see how it's refining your thoughts. But nevertheless, the first level that we need to work on this refinement is the level of my thoughts. The next one comes from the world of Yetzirah, that corresponds to the garment of speech, and also my speech needs to be refined. Now, the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, in the beginning when I became observant, I thought Yetzirah means in Hebrew to create. But really, in Hebrew, the word Yetzirah comes from the Hebrew word Tzura, and Tzura is a shape. This is the world where everything starts getting shapes. And not necessarily creating, rather when things get a shape. So the world of formation, the world of Yetzirah, corresponds to everything that has shapes and colors. This is where the world is getting a shape and color. In the world above, there's no colors. In this world, there's colors. In the world above, the colors are in a much more refined level. It's not that there's no colors in the world above, but it's not the tones that we see in this world. We had already a class when I was talking about the colors in the world above, how they correspond to the colors in the world below. But nevertheless, everything that has to do in this world with shape and colors will also affect my speech. And the refinement of my speech, this is something that most people don't have, how they speak. Before I was observant, every word that came out of my mouth was a curse. Most people, how they talk today, is it comes with a certain adjective and a curse word, or a word that is not a nice word. And we don't even notice how we talk. You know that the other day I was listening to somebody, and somebody sent me a video. Believe it or not, people send me all day long videos, like as if I have time to sit and watch all the videos that people send me. I get like 150 messages a day with videos, like as if I have a lot of free time. And 1 out of 100 maybe I will watch, and if it's more than 1 minute and 20 seconds, I will not even bother to open it. But nevertheless, all day long I get videos. Half of them are nonsense, or cats doing all sorts of flips, and all sorts of opening flowers, and the Shabbat Shalom with stuff like that. But nevertheless, somebody sent me a video not too long ago. The source was a credible source, and I looked at the video, and the only thing that I noticed in the video is that the speaker was saying every 2 words, you know, and I was like, we don't even notice how we talk. This is a world-class speaker, and what was ringing in my ears in the couple minutes of the video is, you know, and it's in the words. And we don't even notice how we're throwing all sorts of words in our speech. I'm not talking about curses right now, or false language. I'm talking about as we speak, we say words that we don't even notice that we're saying. And so again, the next level of refinement that corresponds to the world of Yetzirah has to do with my speech. How am I refining and working on my speech? And needless to say that the last word is the world of action, and this corresponds to the garment of action. The world is called Olam Asiyah, and the garment is called Asiyah, as a certain action. And this, of course, that I have to refine my actions. Most people, their actions are not that refined. They will do a lot of actions that are very negative. And comes here a big question that, if we need to conclude now what we're saying, is that I came to this world to bring refinement into the world. Now, if I have distorted thoughts that are not pure and not clear, and my speech is not pure and clear, and my action, then I'm making the world a worse place. But if I come and I constantly think of pure things, and I constantly work on my speech to be refined, and my actions, then I bring a tikkun to the world. I bring some type of gentleness, if you can say, or refinement into the world. Even though one might say, but I'm one person and against 7.4 billion people. What does my refinement to help the world? But nevertheless, even if you go to an empty field or to a desert and there's one flower in the middle of the desert, it's still one flower that is blooming in the desert. So my mission in this world, I mean I have many missions, but it's to bring the world to a level of refinement. And I cannot refine the world if I'm not refined. So really what I need to do, I constantly have to have in the back of my mind, how am I refining myself? I mentioned that so many times in our classes that to do mitzvot is extremely important and we have to do it. To learn Torah, we must. But really the ultimate goal why we came to this world is to refine my character traits. It's called Tikkun HaMidot. And we talked about it numerous times. And there are numerous books talking about it. We're learning some of them. Tomer Dvorah by Rabbi Moshe Cordovero de Ramak. Sharei Kedusha, The Gates of Holiness by Rabbi Chaim Vital. There's so many different books of Tikkun HaMidot. How do I refine my characteristics, my character traits? And that's what I need to focus on. Because each and every one of us has a list of bad character traits that need to be refined. And we also have good character traits. You can be patient, loving, caring, giving, courteous, and so forth. But we also have a lot of bad character traits that I'm quick to anger, I'm quick to judge, I'm not gentle, I'm not sensitive, I'm not patient, and I have to refine my character traits. Some people, you come and tell them, listen, you have a very bad character trait, you're always late. Instead of telling you, thank you for letting me know, I will work on it, I'm always late? Why are you telling me that? Why are you attacking me? This is me, you'll never change me. How many times you hear in a relationship, don't try to change me. I'm not trying to change you. I'm just pointing something out so you can refine yourself. You wouldn't want to know that you're doing something that is off or something that is not good. So if your ego is out of control, then you will receive that as an attack. If you are humble, you will thank the person who tells you, by the way, this type of behavior is not appropriate. Or when you do this, it's not nice. It's not good. I have to constantly have in the back of my mind, how am I refining myself? When I became observant, 3 years I didn't even wear a yarmulke. I didn't wear tzitzit, I didn't go to yeshiva, I didn't do anything. For me, my observant process was to become refined, is to stop cursing, is to stop cheating, is to stop manipulating, is to stop hurting people with my mouth, is to stop thinking negative thoughts, and all these different types of ways to refine myself. When I look back, I was the most rugged, rough, not nice person. Because when I look back at myself, my speech was disgusting. Every word that came out of my mouth was not a nice word. And I would talk to people in a very not nice way. Whether it was a derogatory way, whether it was a humiliating way. And this required a lot of refinement. I understood that I cannot sit and learn Torah all day long if my mind is still thinking of things that are not pure. And then my speech is not pure. And then my action is not nice. So nevertheless, this is what I need to focus on. And this is what we were talking about right now. But comes already a big question that says, okay, I understand what you're saying. But if I'm going to become this nice person, you know what's going to happen to me in this world? I'm going to be ran over. I'm going to be stepped all over. if I'm going to be a nice, giving, courteous, sensitive, gentle individual, I will be taken over. I will be taken advantage. Everybody will step all over me. You know where you see it? You stand in the bank. If you're the polite one that stands in the side, everybody goes right in front of you. Nobody says, are you in line? That's a normal world. The people says, are you in line? Bavakasha. The other day, I went to the bank. I'm standing like a polite individual in the side. And of course, you know, any opportunity, everybody walks in. And then one lady just walks in front. And I told her, excuse me, I was standing here before you. I didn't see you. You didn't see me. I'm 6'2". How can you not see me? 200 pounds of bones and flesh. You don't see me? How can you not see me? I'm not like a little midget. I didn't see you here. So one can say, and this is one example out of many, how many times you're standing in the line, everybody cuts you in the line and pushes you. So any individual will say, how are you asking me to be a gentle, refined individual in this harsh, rugged world? I'm going to be pushed aside in 1 second. This world is a jungle. I will never survive if I'm going to be sensitive or gentle or refined in this world. I have to push my elbows to the side. If not, I'm going to be stepped all over. How can I be gentle? So we go back to one of our greatest leaders, who's King David HaMelech. David HaMelech was known to be extremely gentle individual. Very, very sensitive and very gentle. And the Talmud says that he was gentle on one hand, but on the other hand he was very, very tough. He was gentle and refined because he used to learn Torah all day long. He never slept. He learned Torah all night, all day. Every moment that he had, he learned Torah. So it made him very, very sensitive and gentle and refined. On the other hand, David HaMelech ran wars. And when it came to a war, he was tough like a rock. The Talmud actually says he was tough like a tree, because wood is very, very, very strong. And the thing is that when you learn a lot of Torah, then you become very refined. If a person learns a lot of Torah and doesn't become refined or sensitive or gentle, something's wrong with his Torah. It's not for the sake of Torah. He's learning it to show off or whatever, any other reason. If you learn Torah all day long, or at least a couple hours a day, by default it makes you gentle, you talk softer, your hand movements are not so violent, you're more refined, you're more quiet, you don't judge so quickly. Nevertheless, the Torah, it's the word in Hebrew is called me'aden, makes you sweeter and softer. So David HaMelech was sweet and soft because he learned Torah, but on the other hand, he had to go to wars, so he had a toughness, but this came from inside. It wasn't on the external part. The inside was tough and strong. So how do you really bring out this gentle part in me and the sensitivity in me is dafka when you're strong. The Torah is very firm. The Torah doesn't give you too much discounts and leeways. The Torah tells you yes or no. There's no maybes in the Torah. The Torah tells you what you're allowed to and what you're not allowed to. This is a certain toughness, a certain restriction, what's called gvura, severity. So the point we want to take from all this is that dafka, when something is a chaos, a chaotic situation, or we call it a jungle, that's where you come in and you start refining it. The fact that one can say, this is a tough world, if I'm going to be gentle here, then the world will take over me, that's incorrect. The more that I am refining myself, and the only way to refine myself is when I take a lot of Torah, then on the outside I'm very refined and I might seem very sensitive and gentle, but the inside is very strong and very powerful and very assertive. And the proof to that was David HaMelech. On the outside he was very, very sensitive. He would care for every little being, every little thing, even animals. But on the inside, the Torah brought to him assertiveness and becoming very, very strong. So what we want to take from that, practically saying, is that the holiday of Tubshvat is coming to teach me that I want to be connected to the tree of life. The tree of life right now cannot exist in this world. It is in this world, but there's no access to it. The only access to the tree of life is if I bend the tree branches into the world. So it means that I have to increase in learning Torah, and I have to bring the Torah of the tree of life into this world. But really the point what I want to focus on and take the energy of this holiday is that I have to look at myself how I'm refined and how I'm sensitive. If I am sensitive, if I am sensitive and refined, I have to look at myself constantly about my refinements. And I have to know that I need to refine my thoughts, I have to refine my speech, and I have to refine my action. This is the idea of the Gan Eden in this world, is that constantly has to be progress. Constantly has to be where I'm striving to get to become better. If I think that I'm fine, if I think of myself that I'm doing great, I already reached to my graduation, that I'm completely living in denial. I have to understand every day, what do I need to refine today? When you wake up in the morning, after you say Modeh Ani, you have to tell yourself, what am I refining today? And usually in the first part of the morning, Hashem will already hint to you what you need to work on today. And if sometimes I take my feet off my bed, and Baruch Hashem I have 6 kids, so my foot would land on a toy, and you want to blow up in steam. Why did you leave the toy on the floor? Oh, so today I have to refine my anger. I can't get angry today. And usually in the first 30 minutes of your day, either you get a text message that blows you out of proportion, something will happen in the beginning of the day to hint to you, what do you need to work on today? Today I need to work on patience. So today everybody will drive you nuts. And today I have to work on my forgiveness. So today everybody will hurt you. So you have to have a little bit of perception to open your eyes and say, okay, what do I need to refine today? And don't think that today if you finish, that's it, you're done with it. You have 60, 70, 80 years to refine yourself. But every day you have to refine something. And there are many midot. Yesterday I was talking about it throughout Shabbat. I need to be humble enough to put in front of my face my weaknesses. And not to have an ego and say, no, I'm perfect. Is to say, no, here I'm weak, here I have a weakness, here I have a problem. I need to understand that my life is progress, and it has to be constant progress. Now, don't think that you can refine yourself in a year. Refinement can take 40 years, 50 years, 60 years to reach to a level of refinement. Not too long ago, I had an interaction with a relative that if you would ask anybody from the family about this relative, they will tell you he's a hothead, very angry, full of anger, all the time screaming. His poor kids, what he put them through. Now he's in his late 60s, probably even early 70s. Now he's relaxed, he's calm. So everybody's saying, oh, the age did its course. No, he took him 50 years to work on himself, to refine himself. So now he doesn't get angry so much. So once he used to get angry 10 times a day, now he gets angry twice a week. So people says, oh, now he's old, he's relaxed. No, he worked on himself. There was years and years and years to work on the midah, on the attribute of anger. So the point I want to take from that is that the holiday is not only to signify what I need to do, is also to give me the tools. It's also to give me the opportunity. The tools of reaching refinement is that I have to refine all 3 levels of my thought, speech, and action. I will never reach a level of refinement if my thoughts are not refined, if my speech is not refined, and if my actions are not refined. And I have to be very observant of how I behave, and I have to apply here a lot of midat Anava, a lot of humbleness, so I can see right away my thoughts are not refined. If I'm looking at a certain thing and right away comes to me a bad thought, my thoughts are very not refined. And if I'm behaving a certain way, but I have to constantly look at myself. And what will affect my thoughts, speech, and actions is the music I hear, is the food that I eat, the society that I'm around, where I'm hanging out, what I wear, the movies I see. All this is how I refine myself. The ultimate level of true refinement is just to learn Torah. The Torah is the best tool to refine yourself. And the more you learn Torah, then the more you refine yourself. Because that's what you hear, that's what you see, that's what you speak. Why when we learn Torah we say it out loud? Because you have to speak it. You have to look at the letters. I always say listening to a video is great, but to learn Torah is from a book. You need to see the letters. You need to see the Hebrew letters with your own eyes, because it refines your eye, it by default refines your thoughts. If you go now to some beautiful beach in the Bahamas and just imagine what's on the beach, you think your thoughts will be pure thoughts? All you see is junk there. But if you put yourself in a closed room next to a book and you read Torah for 2 hours, what do you think your thoughts will be? Your thoughts will be refined. So you can find different ways how you refine your thought, speech, and action. But the point is that I want to bring the world back to the state of Gan Eden, that there's no anger, and there's no jealousy, and there's no hate, and there's no diseases, and pain, and war, and so forth. That's the idea what I need to do here. Now a lot of people will say, how can I affect the world, one person against billions of people? But even in your place where you are, you refine your place, then you did a tikkun, a rectification to the distortion of the world after the sin of Gan Eden. And specifically the holiday of Tubshvat is the time, not only when it gives me the tools, it's the time where it gives me the energy, the birth to be able to do that. Because a holiday in Hebrew, in English you say holiday, in Hebrew you call it chag. Chag, it means that something, it's a cycle, and there's certain energy on today's day. It doesn't happen on any other day, it happens today. Well, it's not today, it's going to be tonight. But nevertheless, at the time of the day, that's when I can tap into this energy to nourish for the rest of the year the power that I can refine myself. And what I want to take from that is that a big portion in my life, my mission or my focus on, is how do I become a much better person. I want to become a better husband, a better child, a better neighbor, and a better citizen, a better friend. And if I don't work on myself constantly to refine myself, then I'm constantly, so to say, out of my Gan Eden. And then there's no sensitivity, there's no gentleness, there's no refinement. I constantly want to switch the reality that I go back to the state of Gan Eden. And needless to say, like I explained before, that Eden can be coming from the root of the word adinut, sensitive and gentle, but Eden is also pleasure. And when I reach to the place where this is rectification, that I reach to the level of pleasure, of ta'anug, that I receive constantly pleasure in everything that I do. Ezrat Hashem should take advantage of this beautiful holiday where we can apply a big change in our life. That's how am I refining my life to make everybody's life better around me. Don't forget that when you refine yourself, everybody around you, they benefit from that. If I'm a refined individual, my wife enjoys it. My kids enjoy it. My neighbors enjoy it. Who wants to hang out next to a person who's not refined and is rough and vulgar and disgusting, and curses and all this disgusting behavior? So when I work on myself, everybody around me will benefit from it. Because I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I give compliments when they have to come, I help, I talk nice and so forth. So Bezrat Hashem, we should take a little bit of time to think, specifically on this day, what do I need to work on myself to refine myself? And I need to look inside myself with a vision of truth and say, somebody today came to me in the morning, told me, I heard what you said yesterday, I want to work on this, this and this. This is what I want to do. How should I do it? He came and asked. But the point is to say, what do I need to work on myself? You know what, I'm going to work on myself now, my language. That's what the young man told me today. I don't like how I speak. It's not so gentle. It's not refined. I speak not so nice. Sometimes I say jokes that are not appropriate. I say comments that are not appropriate. We don't even notice how we talk. So the point to take from that is you want to look in yourself, what do I need to refine in myself? Something that there's no such a thing that we are perfect. No human being in this world can say, I'm not nothing to refine. I'm the symbol of perfection. So if you humble yourself and you decide what you need to refine, take on yourself 1, 2, 3 things that you want to refine this year, and I can guarantee to you, you'll grow to the next level. This is a concept of progress. And that's how we get closer and closer to the true Gan Eden that we'll see finally Gan Eden in this world. Ezrat Hashem should have a beautiful Chag Sameach, happy holiday, and productive rest of the year.